Protect your energy. Keep yourself in the present so that you can aim for what you aspire to have in the future. Don't hold on to the past. This is a form of practical, physical detachment that you can take. And I hope that this helps. I hope that this is useful. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the channel. My name is Mars Molina, and I have dedicated my life to the pursuit of philosophical and spiritual truth so we can guide our lives. And in this channel, my aim is to share with you different techniques, different methodologies, different things and perspectives that will help you use a different perspective, a more aligned with your soul perspective, so you can achieve anything and everything that you desire in life in a proper alignment. Something that will provide you health, that will provide you prosperity, that will provide you the happiness. And of course, the idea is that you remove all the blockages and that you are able to discern better and better what the path that lies ahead of you is. And in today's video, we're going to talk about detachment. However, many times we talk about, let's say, internal detachment, spiritual detachment, and what that means, and it is a very, very important thing. But today we want to focus this a little bit more on physical detachment and the physical aspect of it, the separation of what it means in many things in our environment. Why? Because I can see that when we hold on to things, when we hold on so fiercely to things from the past, it really prevents us from going into a new direction. It really prevents new flow of energy coming into our lives to move where we want to go. And we want to talk about today, again, physical things, objects that you're holding on in your bedroom, in your home, in your office, perhaps, that you are keeping there and that are really putting a hold into new things coming to your life, into prosperity, into health, into achievement. So I want you to take a moment now to take a deep breath. You can close your eyes and reflect. What are the things that you are holding on to that are definitely from another era, definitely from a different time in the past, that are anchoring you to someone who is no longer in your life, or to events that are no longer relevant in your life, and perhaps they're even anchoring you to someone who you no longer are yourself. Perhaps they belong to a different job that you had, a different relationship, a different era, a different monetary status, a different home. I want you to reflect on how many of these things really have a purpose in today in your life. And I want you to think about how different your life would be if you remove them. If you think about it this way, if you can come up with many things that you could just remove from your life, and your life really would be unaffected, that would be probably a good indication of you to just get rid of them. Today we want to talk about this. We want to talk even about how we can appropriately get rid of them, depending on what they are, because that also has a particular effect in our psyche, in our spirituality, which can be measured by the planets. And as you may know, the planets, as I have spoken many, many times before, are associated with different objects. And again, the planets, don't think of it of merely astrological things, but you can think of the planets as accumulations of energy. And these accumulations of energy get more, let's say, provoked into having a greater effect in our lives if we have the objects that these planets associate themselves with. We'll talk more about this, of course. So if you're able to pinpoint many things, many objects that are in your home, in your bedroom, in your office, that shouldn't be there, I really want you to make a plan to get rid of them as soon as possible. Because we are not here to hold on onto these things. And the more that you hold on to them, like I mentioned, the more things get stagnant. But moreover, when you hold on to specific certain things that I will mention, they will have an effect in your career, they will have an effect in your relationship, they will have an effect in your family, they will have an effect in your savings, in your money, in your health, in your spiritual progress. And it relates a little bit to something I spoke about in the past in another video, in which I spoke about the fact that if you accumulate a lot of spiritual things and you don't know exactly where they come from, You don't know the source. You don't know who built that statue, who put together that rosary, who put together those tarot cards, whatever it may be, then you may actually be putting yourself at risk. Think about it. You don't know who fabricated that. When you buy technology, for example, when you buy the tools that you need for work, whether you're an artist, whether you are in tech, whether you're a lawyer, you need certain things. And you want to make sure that those things are of good quality because that's how you make money, right? If you are in tech, you probably have a few very nice screens that allow you to operate on whatever tasks you're doing, and you want to really have a visual thing. You want to have a nice keyboard, a nice mouse, a nice computer, of course. If you're an artist, you need certain brushes of certain materials, you need certain paints, you need certain clays, you need certain canvases, you need a particular microphone, and you don't just go buy that at the corner store or the dépanneur. You don't just go buy it there. Maybe you order it from Amazon, but most of you who want to have certain quality items, you will pursue, okay, who created this one and why is it good? And you rely on certain brands because you know that that brand name will give you certain quality, right? You buy Apple because you know those products will have a particular aesthetic and they will have a particular quality. Some people argue, well, it's not the greatest quality. Maybe this other company has better quality. Yes, but they're very reliable, right? They're very reliable to a degree. They have a certain aesthetic, and you can use them to a certain function, right? If you are more advanced, you get a different brand. You do some research to know what are the brands that you can buy. In the same way, for your spiritual objects, you should do the same, if not more. Think about it. You should not just wait for someone in the corner to offer you a certain thing, right? As I've spoken about in the past, not anyone, not everyone is qualified to build a statue, to put together a crucifix, to put together some type of holy image. Not everyone is qualified for that. So please be very, very, very careful for that. And as I've spoken about in the past, if you notice that you're increasingly getting into trouble with your health, with your work, with your psyche, with your sleep, with your relationship, and you recently acquired an item that you don't know the source, you don't know where it come from, I would advise to be very cautious with these things. I've done this over and over again throughout my life, and it is very unfortunate. But it is best to get rid of these items. And how do we get rid of them? I want to talk about a few more objects before I actually say how we'll get rid of them. But even before that, I just, as I was talking about this, I remembered a little tale, a little joke that I heard about the spiritual path and the path of detachment. I heard this one when I was in India about 2017 from one of the teachers there. And it talks about a spiritual seeker. And this spiritual seeker wants to meet a guru. He wants to meet a master who will enlighten them, who will show them the path. So the spiritual seeker gathers all his things, puts on a gigantic backpack, and goes to find in the Himalayas, in the mountains, this particular teacher. And he eventually, after a long and arduous journey, finds the home where they said this particular teacher would be. And when he walks in, opens just a little curtain, barely any door, right? Opens a curtain, he sees him there. And there are not many things there. He has a very, 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 very humble, austere type of home. Barely a bed, barely a place to put some food together. That's about it. So then when they see each other, they're a bit surprised with each other. And the master asks him, well, did you bring anything else? He sees the pots, he sees the toilet paper, he sees the clothes, he sees the tent, he sees the sleeping bag. Anything else that you wanted to bring? And the student, this person who aspires for this, says, well, I'm only here for so much time, so this is all I brought. And he asks, Master, where is all your stuff? Where is all your stuff? And the master says, well, this is it. I'm only here for a limited amount of time, so this is it. They tell us this story as a bit of a joke, but it does show you that you are able to aspire to that austerity, because most of the possessions that we have are distractions. And like I said, they anchor you to a particular wavelength, to a particular energy, to a particular point in time. to a particular location, and perhaps you don't want to be there. The idea for this video came from a conversation that we were having in which this person had not one, not two, but three different engagement rings from a relationship that they are no longer in. The person involved in the relationship who gave the rings to this person, they already went and married. We then looked at the chart, and yes, we can see that the person is meant to be proposed to, meant to be brought into another lineage and to another family 3 times. And that's what happened. But by the sheer fact that this person keeps holding on to the rings, it is, like I mentioned, holding them into an attachment to that particular ex-partner and, of course, to that particular family. You may not notice, but if you reflect on it, if you meditate a lot, you will actually start feeling it and say, well, there's someone else's energy keeping me in place here. I want to be free from it. Think about it. Anytime people think about you, they are holding you in place. What place is that? And if there is something of value, of weight and connection, then that gets amplified. It's like having Wi-Fi, and then you put something into a different room so that the signal will be increased. It is exactly like this. So any object that we have, anything that we have, the microphone here, the light that I'm using, the phone, it'll connect me to a particular wavelength. So this person wonders, do you think this has an effect in my dating life today? What do you think? Of course it does. Because for let's say the pool of consciousness out there, you are not married once, you're married 3 times to this lineage. Sure, you never went to see the priest, but you are engaged, perhaps is a better word, to this lineage, to this family, to this person. So my advice to this person is get rid of all the rings. In the same way, if an ex-partner that you broke off of and it was a very dark time in your life and you were not achieving what you wanted, you have certain things from that time, you should not keep those things. Those belong to a different person now. And by the way, it doesn't matter if the rings are valuable. It doesn't matter if they gave you a beautiful crucifix, if they gave you a nice shirt, a backpack. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying throw it in the bin. I'll explain how to get rid of it. But you should be very, very careful. You don't even need to sell these things. I actually recommend not selling them. Someone was telling me yesterday, what about the wedding dresses that, the person, the wedding didn't go through and now they want to sell that wedding dress. Well, what do you think? If you buy that wedding dress that was used and that engagement failed, what do you think you're bringing to the table? You have to be very careful. So once again, it is not about the value. So I do not recommend selling them. I also don't recommend breaking them. I don't recommend putting them in the garbage. And I definitely don't, this is the biggest one, don't recommend burning them. When you burn something, you are increasing that. You're lifting that to the gods, because that's the function of the element of fire. The element of fire is always rising. So it will bring that to the gods. Do you understand? So whenever people ask you, oh, let's do this little sorcery thing, this little witchy thing, burn the picture of your ex that hurt you so much, you will notice that that doesn't work. You'll notice that this affects you even deeper. You have to be very careful, as I keep saying. Not everything that you see on TikTok, not everything that you see online is there to guide you. A lot of people don't know what they're talking about, or a lot of people do know. And like I mentioned before, they don't have the best of intentions. And it's very sad, but it is so. Think about just the fundamentals. It is always very simple. The element of fire, it is a sacred element and it lifts things. Where does the element of fire go? It goes upward. Think about these things, okay? So in the same way, if you're holding to any type of ring from a previous relationship and that's affecting, and you wonder, is that affecting my dating life nowadays? Yes, it is. If you are holding things that belong from a different era of your job where you weren't very happy, you weren't very fulfilled, think about what those things are, in particular things that are job related, such as instruments, computers, pens, any technological thing. If you're trying to do social media stuff and you're trying to do it with tools that belong to a time in your life where you had very bad social media experiences, maybe you were stalked, right? And you still hold on to that phone where you received hateful messages online, you should probably get rid of it. Get a new phone. Let's see what else. If you are going through gut health things and you're still, think about it, you're still keeping the same diet, how is that going to help you? You need to renew it. You need to renew the whole thing. Other things that come to mind are, of course, wallets, watches, anything that has some type of value, that energy was invested to, that you're in contact with a lot, right? That's why I say the wallet. If we were, back in the day, my dad always used to go to work with this briefcase, right? That would be a great thing that you will know that carries a particular thing. So whatever he experienced with this briefcase, so whatever he experienced during the time he owned that briefcase, that is held in place by that, because that is an instrument that carries a little bit more power, a little bit more weight. The same way, I also had this conversation not long ago. If you're an artist and you move to a house where another artist used to live, then you will see that quality gets increased. If you move to a house where a person had very negative thoughts, you will feel that. That is why there are certain things that you need to do when you move on to a new place to purify it, to cleanse it. But that may be a conversation for another time. Just to wrap it up, I want to talk about, well, how can we get rid of things that are affecting us? One thing there to mention is that I don't want you to sell them. If you have, for example, a ring and it belongs to a different time in your life that was a very negative time, and you know that for a fact, and you sell that, this is going to come back to bite you in the butt, because you already know that has certain energy. And now you're even making money out of it. You'll notice that this money is lost. And the qualities, the energy of that ring will come back to haunt you. Throwing it in the garbage is not enough. Throwing it in, breaking it is also not enough. So how do we get rid of these things that have this sway? I'm talking only about spiritual things and certain objects, right? I'm not talking here about technology, by the way. Technology, you do have to dispose of it in the method that you dispose of technology, right? Because they have certain materials and certain batteries and all this sort of stuff. So for technology, you do have to follow that procedure. Okay, I want to make that clear. But if you have that ring, again, that crucifix, that object that belongs to the past, how to get rid of it? You go to the river. Find the river, stand by the shore of the river, take a moment to center yourself, do a prayer, release yourself from this energy, and throw it into the river. Cast it into the river. I bring to you the image of the Lord of the Rings, the books, the movies, because it came very clearly to my mind yesterday as we were having this conversation. Think about it. Rings hold you in place. And in the books and the movies, they say one ring to rule them all. One ring to bind them, probably not saying it right, and in the darkness find them, something like this. But particularly rings have a lot of energy. I could make probably a 2-hour video on rings alone. It is very, very, very complex. Just, I guess, for context, anytime we receive or give a ring, yes, it's binding us in place, like I said, but it's also a promise. It's also a commitment to a particular wavelength of energy. Whatever finger the ring goes to, it will also have an imprint there. Whatever material, because each finger is representing a planet, right? So if you put in your index finger, right, this is going to do something with Jupiter. And if that ring is positive for Jupiter, then Jupiter will be enhanced. But how do I know that Jupiter is positive for you or not? I mean, it is positive for everyone. But how will I know that that is what I need to increase in your chart? So the metal is important, whether it's silver, gold, or anything else. The shape of the ring matters. The finger of where you put the ring matters. The source of the ring matters. And of course, if it has a stone, that matters a lot too. That is why you may see a lot of astrologers, in particular a lot of Vedic astrologers, they talk a lot about rings and what stones to wear and what metals to wear. So it's a very complex thing. You really need to look at like the period of the person. I guess a good example about this is Jupiter is that if I know the person has Jupiter in Cancer and they are overweight and they ask me, should I get my Jupiter uh, ring and put it on my Jupiter finger? I would say no. Be very careful, because unless you have the ability to outpour, is that a word? Pour out a lot of Jupiterian energy, and you're already overweight and you're Jupiter in Cancer, I could probably do more harm than good by increasing your Jupiter. Jupiter in Cancer, people can gain a lot of weight. So why would I want to affect you like that? Maybe there would be something else that I would want to do. And it's not as simple as saying, okay, let me not do Jupiter, let me do Mars. Again, I need to look at the chart. Again, maybe you have a very strong temperament and you're overweight. And then I give you Mars. That's not necessarily going to get you to the gym. That may actually get you to be even more angry, and you're already overweight. Then you have a heart attack. So you see, it's not as simple. That is why many of the teachers that I have are quite respectful when it comes to stones and rings. And very early on, I found that to be the case for myself. And when I encounter the teachers that I like the most, I was glad to see that they are also like that. It's not that you shouldn't wear them. It's just that, again, like I said with these things, there's a reason why it takes lifetimes to study these things. I've been studying these things for 15 years, and honestly, I feel like I'm only scratching the surface. And like I mentioned at the beginning of my videos, I've dedicated my life. I don't study casually. I study like a savage. I contemplate all day long. I work really hard on this. And still, I feel like there's so much to discover. I think out of, I don't know, 100 readings, there's only been very few clear-cut cases that I've said, okay, I see that you should wear this ring. Maybe 2 or 3 out of 100. And that may not even be the case. So, yeah, rings can hold a lot of power. So please be very careful with that. If they are very simple, straightforward, silver or gold, you can wear them. That's probably fine. If it's your engagement ring, of course, you know, all of that, you should be wearing it. And last thing I should mention is that I did say these things can hold you in a place in time, but sometimes the place in time is not bad, right? So what happens when your mother, your father had a beautiful marriage and they want to inherit to you a ring, a wedding dress, I don't know, things like this? Well, of course you take it. That's how it used to be back in the day, right? Hey, you know, your grandmother got married and she was wearing, I don't know, this thing. And your father, you know, grandfather, they had a beautiful marriage. You know, they loved each other so much. They were together for 70 years, and you know, he had his handkerchief when they get married, and they want you to have it. Of course, you say yes, right? Because that carries a particular energy. Think about it. Would you want to walk a mile in their shoes? Yeah. So if there is something that someone who has achieved a lot, they want to give it to you, they want to sell it to you, something like this, you get it, 100%. So I have even personal stories to say about that, but I don't want to make today's video too long. But do reflect on this, right? Think about it. Do you want to walk a mile in their shoes? Do you want to walk a mile in your shoes from 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Get rid of stuff. If it's technology, throw it in the appropriate way that you should. If it's something of a different kind, throw it in the river. Clean your garage, clean your attic, clean your home. Get rid of stuff, and you will notice how your life starts flowing. You will notice how things start moving more. And when you reflect on this, because this is what happened yesterday, the person, you know, started digging around, and we discovered that there was not 1, not 2, but 3 different rings. So in the same way, it is very likely that you are holding on to more stuff than you probably think. Love letters from when you were 15 years old, probably get rid of that, right? You can at most have the love letters of the current person. That's it, right? Protect your energy. Keep yourself in the present so that you can aim for what you aspire to have in the future. Don't hold on to the past. This is a form of practical, physical detachment that you can take. And I hope that this helps. I hope that this is useful. I hope that if you resonate with this, you will be able to do it in your life and remove things and notice how things just start flowing. Work, savings, health, prosperity, happiness, relationships just start flowing because you're getting rid of that which is anchoring you to the past. And is that where you want to live? No matter how great the past has been, understand that what's out there for you, if you really align yourself, it's just great. It is really awesome. So this is what I wish for you. And if you find this information useful, if you find this video useful, this information interesting, well, I want to suggest that you like the video, share, subscribe. As always, drop a comment. What would you like to hear me talk about next, or what sign should come next? I want to once again thank you all so much for watching. Take good care of yourselves. Have an amazing week ahead, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.